What is your first memory?
I can remember when my little sister Helen was born, stillborn, and I remember that's one of the first memories I remember I wanted to touch her, and they said, "Don't touch her, don't touch her," because she was born a full-term baby, born to my mother, stillborn because she was born feet first or something, but the cord was around her neck, and so when she came out, they could start. She wasn't breathing, and she died from the cord. And I remember she laying with my mother, and I wanted to. I thought she was a doll, and they said, "Don't touch her, don't touch her." I can still hear them say, "Don't touch her, don't touch her," and I wanted to. I thought it was a doll. I was like 2.5 or 3 years old when that happened.
Where was this?
In Lahaina.
In the home?
Oh yeah, all babies are born at home. They had a midwife,
Oh.
And and my mother had the baby in her arm like this, and I wanted to touch it. I didn't see the birth. There was a midwife that had delivered the baby, and she had the baby. I thought it was the doll, and they said, "Don't touch her, don't touch her," and I thought that was very strange. That's my first memory of. Oh, before that, I remember them dressing me up and taking a picture of me. There's a picture of me and Mary. We have a picture. I was maybe 2.5, I don't know.
And you remember that?
I was so happy. My hair was all curled, and there's Mary. She was very unhappy. She had straight hair. She looked pure Korean, and here I was cute with curls. And I look at that picture and I said, "Oh, we got to get rid of that picture."
No, even at the time. I wonder why that sticks out in your memory.
Huh?
That's funny that sticks out in your memory.
Because I can still see her face. She just looked so unhappy. Here she had straight hair, and she looked so Korean. Here I was with this curly hair and smiling away. Oh God, I think I have that picture somewhere. If I ever find it, I'll show it to you.
Do you think that that made a difference, like appearance, because she looked more Korean, or you do look more mixed?
I don't know. I just think because I was the baby at that time, so I was treated more like a baby, and she resented it because she was only 2.5 years older than I was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think so.
Do
I
you
don't
think
know if it had anything to do with looks, but I had curls, and she had the straight hair. If I ever see that picture, I'll show it to you, and you'll see what I mean. She looked pure Korean, and here was cute with the curls and.
Do you have memories of your home in Lahaina before you moved to San Francisco?
Yeah, that's it. I remember that birth of that baby. In those days, all babies were born at home, stillborn. She was that stillborn.
Well, do you remember anything about growing up, like your dad or your parents' relationship before you moved?
See, when we left, my mother never returned. So I just remember the good times.
On Maui?
I always thought, how did she ever marry him? Because they really didn't understand each other, really.
Did she ever tell you why?
No.
Did your dad ever tell you why?
No. I just knew that they were just very different.
Did you
and
ever?
She was so happy to be with her Spanish family,
Did you ever, when you wondered why, did you ever guess? Did you ever have an idea?
I just knew I think she had a postpartum psychosis. When that baby died, because my mother was never the same after that. I know she'd cry for anything. She was crying. So that's when my father said, "You need to go back to visit your family." And then he said, "You have to take me," because I was like 2.5. He said, "I cannot take care of two." The other one, Mary, was already going kindergarten or something. So he couldn't take care, going to work full time, and me being at home. I was too young. And so he wanted me, he told my mom, I can remember he told her, "You need to go visit your mother." And when I think of it, my mother had a postpartum psychosis when she just lost a child. She cried a lot. She cried for everything. She always would cry. And
Did she cry when she was in San Francisco, or was she better?
Oh, she was much better. She recovered. That was that she was among her family. Her brothers are all there, and they just was her family. She hadn't seen them for all those years. Transportation didn't have planes. We had to go on a boat. It took 10 days to get there.
When you got to San Francisco, did anyone ever treat you differently because you were mixed?
No, but my uncle, my youngest uncle, Rafe Manuel, he was only 17 or 18. He was at the airport, and he was a tall, handsome guy, and that was my mother's brother, and I thought, wow, what a good-looking guy. Well, I'm only 3.5 years old now. And he picked me up and grabbed me and kissed me, and I'm not used to that kind of, they are just huggy, lovey people, those Spaniards, And here, when I'm only 2.5, and everybody's picking me up and hugging me and kissing me, and he was only 17 or 18. And then when I go to her oldest brother Tito's house, they're all hugging and kissing, and an entirely different environment completely.
How do you think your life would have been different if you had stayed in California?
Oh, it would probably been a lot different. I probably would never have, my Korean part of me would have been completely lost. Because when I came back, my father was cooking Korean food. I couldn't even eat that food. Mary hated me because Mom took you and left me. Stuff like that.
So when you say your Korean side would have been lost, what part of you do you think is Korean?
What, at that time or when now?
Then and now.
Oh, well, don't forget, when I was 2.5, my father was cooking Korean food, so we were eating Korean food. I go to my mother's family, they're Spanish, they're speaking Spanish, and I don't even understand them, but they can speak English too. To me, they would speak English, but they were all speaking Spanish. I didn't know what they're talking about. And they were kind of pick me up and hug me and kiss me, and these guys, all these uncles, picked me up and hugged me. I had not had that experience. I liked it, but it was different. And then all the food that she cooked that they had was Spanish food, chopino and all that kind of stuff. So it took me a while to learn how to eat that kind of food. An entirely different relationship,
Mm-hmm. How was it when you were with your Korean father?
When I came back, it was horrible because my sister hated me because Mom took you and left me. My father cooked Korean food. I couldn't eat it. I lost weight, and next thing you know, I was put on a bus with all the underweight kids and spent one summer up in Kula, where we all given cod liver oil, and all the underweight kids, a busload of us, were sent up to. But we loved it because it was like going on a picnic.
Did the plantation pay for that?
Oh yeah, plantation. It was a plantation project. All the kids that wanted to wait, and then you went up there and they lined you up and gave you it looked like a tablespoon of cod liver oil every morning. And then we played, but we all had good meals and stuff. That was just for the summer. So I remember going on the bus, and that was a treat. Going on a bus up to this place, it's like going on a vacation.
What kind of things did you play? Did you keep any lasting friends, or what were your memories from there?
We were all we were like, kindergarten or first grade. It was like we were going on a picnic. The bus took us, and the road was terrible. From Lahaina to Kula.
Uh-huh.
And then when we got there, we all stayed like in a dorm. And every morning, they lined us up, and we all got a teaspoon or a tablespoon of cod liver oil. And then, hey, get down!
Oh my gosh, that cat.
Funny how she has no manners at all. But anyway, so
She smelled the cheese, that's why. She loves cheese.
she wants to be part of the crowd here.
Huh.
But anyway, it was an entirely different life.
Do you feel that you turned out more Spanish or more Korean or more local?
Well, when I was there, I could understand them, and I could even speak the language, and everybody was huggy, lovey. My youngest uncle was like 17 or 18 years old. Great Manuel he was. He's dead now, but he picked me up and he hugged me and kissed me, and I wasn't used to that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And and when they would speak Spanish, I didn't understand it, but you know, as a kid, I picked it up really fast, so I knew what they were saying. And then my Tito had 2 sons, and you know, they hated me because I got all the attention, right?
Who were his sons?
They had, I forgot their name. 2 sons, anyway. He had 2 sons, and they were like, oh, always crying because they were jealous of me and stuff like that, you know. I got a lot of attention. Everybody picked me up and hugged me and kissed me, and they were boys. And so they would do little tricks, dirty little tricks on me. I can't remember what, but I used to cry, and they would get scolded in Spanish. I went, oh.
But at some point you understood Spanish.
Mm-hmm. And then at one point we became friends.
Hmm.
But when we were alone, we'd speak English, you know. But it's just when the family got together, they spoke Spanish.
Do you still understand Spanish?
I know words, but you know what? I could understand it and I could speak it. But you know, then I came back. Nobody spoke Spanish here.
Hmm.
And of course, when I came back, my sister Mary hated me. Mom took you and left me, you know, that.
What about the kids? When you came back, how did you fit in with the kids at your school?
Oh, they laughed at me because I spoke funny. You know, they were all speaking pidgin, huh? So I was kind of like an outcast when I came back to live here. And then the kids all speak pidgin, and they thought I spoke funny. I remember I was like a loner in school. And then they would laugh at me when the teacher would say something and I answered, and they would laugh at me, and I would be so hurt. I would come home and cry. And my sister, Mary, would say, yeah, you got to go back and live with Mom. She didn't want me there because, you know, Mom took you and left me. And I would, as I got older, I would say, you know, Mom could only take one of us. You got to think about it. We became friends later on.
How did your father integrate you into the culture?
Happy. Well, he tried. And you know what? I couldn't eat that food. He cooked Korean food, and that's how I lost so much weight that I was sent up to Kula with all the underweight kids. I couldn't eat Korean food, and he felt so bad. You know, he tried so hard. He would barbecue. He ate a lot of raw stuff, but he would cook. I remember he used to cook chicken, and then Moki next door used to cook a little pig, give my father. My father would try to get me to eat that. I could eat some of that, but I couldn't eat Korean food.
Did your dad ever try to explain to you why he brought you back?
Well, I couldn't understand him too well, you know, because he spoke pidgin English and he spoke Korean, and, you know, so I never could understand. All I knew is that I understood that what he's trying to tell me, that he loved me too.
Did your brothers try to integrate you into...
Oh, I hated my brother for bringing me back.
Which brother was it?
Daniel.
Oh.
He was in college, at Pomona College. I hated him for a long, long time. I couldn't stand him. I used to cry when I see him. I would cry because I said he brought me back.
Did he ever tell you why he did that?
Well, yeah, he would always say, you know what, Mom had you and Dad wanted you too. That's what he would say.
When you look back, are you glad, or do you wish...
I don't think about that. I just feel that actually they love me. You know, I know my mother cried and cried and cried. And later on, when I was able to even talk to her, I couldn't talk to her on the phone because she cried a lot.
So when you moved back, did you think of yourself as Korean, or did you think of yourself as Spanish? How did the other kids see you?
You know, I fit into school because there were a lot of Mexicans and all kinds of mixed kids there.
In California?
In California.
What kind of mixed kids?
A lot of Mexicans or whatever it was. I mean,
mixed Mexican and Spanish.
And I just kind of looked mixed, so I fit in, you know.
Were there many Asian kids you went to school with? But mostly Mexican.
There were some Asian, but those Asians were, you know, the kind that had lived there and they spoke well and stuff.
So you fit in with the Mexican kids?
Well, I really didn't fit in with too many kids.
Were the Mexican kids nice to you?
They were nice, but, you know, they stuck together because they could speak Mexican or whatever. I didn't know many. I didn't have a lot of friends.
Mm. What about when you moved back?
Same thing. I spoke funny. They laughed at me. I spoke. They were speaking pidgin. A little bit of, when I spoke, they said,
Oh.
"Oh, when you talk funny." They told me.
So when you think of your life, who do you feel like you fit in with?
Well, I eventually fitted in both. I fit after a while. I could understand the Spanish. I fit over there, and then when I went to school, there were a lot of Mexican kids. The Mexican kids always stuck together because they could speak their language. See, so I'd fit in with the half-breeds and stuff. And then when I came back, that was no problem because I went to it was awful because I spoke now good English. I'll go there. Hey, what are you talking about? It's so pigeon up. And so it took a while for me to get better, into that group.
How was it on Maui compared to Oahu?
Oh, there's a lot of different. For one thing, when I came to Oahu, I'm already married. I went to Roosevelt, and Roosevelt was a real segregated school where the Orientals stuck together and all the half-breeds stuck together. So I fit real good with those that were half-breeds,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a small group.
Is that what you called yourself, the half-breeds?
Well, they didn't. I don't know what they called it then, but they didn't call them half-breeds, but that's what I called them.
Uh-huh.
And I fit in real good because the Japanese stuck together. Because Roosevelt was it was what do you call that kind of school where it's whites, but the whites all stuck together and the Orientals stuck together, and
Like English
so
standard.
I was with the half-breeds, half Hawaiians and the Portuguese, so I fit in very good. But we were a very small group, but we fit in very well.
Mm-hmm. Well, what did it take to fit in at Roosevelt?
Well, I had no trouble because, for one thing, I had lived on the mainland and I could speak English well. So I kind of fit in with that half-breed group and the Howley group because they spoke, they were taught to speak. And Roosevelt was an English standard school. So some of the kids that really talked pidgin, they stuck together. But I was lucky that I was put in with the group that was like mixed group. Part Portuguese, Howley, or Japanese, or whatever, the mixture. And they were a very small part of the population there. I never had problem, but for one thing, because I studied hard and all that, I was in that group that they always had the kids that did over a certain group. I forgot what it's called. So I was always in a group that high standard in the school. I forgot, there was a name for it. If you passed all these tests, you were in this special group. And in that group, we had a mixed group, all kinds of mixed and some Orientals. And so I became friends with that group. So it was nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't mix with the whole, like the Japanese stuck together, the Chinese stuck together, it didn't,
What about when you lived with that family?
He was a commander of a ship, and it was near Roosevelt, and all they wanted, they had an ad in the paper. And I was living with Manuel, and it was not working too well. Agnes had all her kids, and so I saw that. She said that her husband was commander of a ship, and he was only in a certain time. And what they had this young boy, he was 6 years old, and they wanted, when that husband was in, that they needed somebody, and it was block and a half from Roosevelt, perfect for me. So I went to see her. And she liked me the minute she saw me because I could speak good English, And she said, "We have a room for you. You can stay here. And all we want is when my husband comes in on the ship, I want to spend that time with my husband." And he was only 6 years. He was a brat, but they only had this one son. And so I was left alone with him a lot. When the ship came in, she'd spend a lot of time with him.
Uh-huh.
He was really a crybaby kind of a kid, But anyway, I spent a lot of time with him, and I can't remember his name now. But they were such a nice family.
What was her last name? Their name?
I can't remember it offhand now. I can't remember. He was a commander of a ship, and they were real refined. She was like almost English. She spoke, but she was a lady. But all she wanted was somebody to be in that house when the husband's ship was in. She wanted to spend all the time with her husband. So I would spend this time with this brat. He hated me, but you know, we got along because he only had me, because when the ship was in, she spent all the time with him. And I was a block and a half from Roosevelt. Perfect for me.
It seems like when you think of your experience on Maui in California, so much has to do with the way you speak. You
Oh,
think
yeah.
that was sort of the factor that sort of...
Oh yeah, I'm sure. So when I came back, you know, the kids all laughed the way I talk. When I went to school at Camp's third school right there on the beach, oh, they'd laugh at me because I talk so funny. And they all talking pidgin, like I'm pidgin and half, you know, this and that. Hey, you know, the way you talk like you funny kind of language. And I was a loner like, but then there were a few other people that were biracial or something, and I fit in with them.
What about nursing school? Did you ever experience that in nursing school?
Well, no, because see, when I graduated from Roosevelt, I heard about this program at that you could go to university and become a nurse. So I talked to my brother about it, and he said, "Oh yeah, why don't you go up?" And I went up to the university, and there was this long line, and that's where I met Amelia Bailey. She was in front of me. Her name is Amelia Kaopua, and we started to talk, and then she said she was going to go into teaching. She wanted to know what I was going to do. I said, "I'm here because they have a special program. You can go into nursing and go to the university at the same time. Get your degree from the university and an RN." By the time we got up to register, she decided she would like to do what I was doing, and we could be roommates, she said. So that's what happened. We applied for that, and we could, once they accepted us, we could stay at Queens Hospital Nursing Home. So she and I became roommates there, and every morning we'd get up and catch the bus and go up to the university. And we'd go to the university for our classes, and then when in the afternoon we'd have classes at Queens Hospital. It was a special program that they had started. First year they started it.
Mm-hmm.
So she and I became roommates, and we were roommates, and then this was 1941, we graduated from high school. We went to the university, got accepted. We were going to the university, and we'd have a few classes at just biology or something at Queens, and we'd catch the bus and go to the university to get our classes. December 7th. That was the summer of 41. She and I enrolled at the university, but we got to live at Queens. We started nursing, and then December 7th happened. And she and I, was a Sunday morning, decided we would go to church, because everything was, all our ceremonies were held at St. Andrew's Cathedral. So although she used to go to that Hawaiian church right there in the corner of, across from the state capitol,
Mm-hmm.
Kauai Hau Church.
Mm-hmm.
She used to go to that church. But once we got to Queens, our services were held at St. Andrews. So that Sunday morning, we decided we would go to church. So we're getting ready and go, and all of a sudden there's boom, boom. So we run outside, and we see the planes with the red circle on it, and the trees are rustling, they're flagged so low. And so I run in the back, and I say, call my brother Manuel, and say, "Hey, what kind of maneuvers are these?" And he's the one that said, "These are not maneuvers. This is the real McCoy. You and your roommate get back in your room and get under your bed. And here, we're just ready to go to church." And I said, my brother said, "It's a real McCoy. So we ran back in there. We crawled under the beds. Boom, boom, boom. You could hear the bombs drumming. Then we heard the ambulances coming to Queens. And then she said, "Let's go down there and see what's going on at the emergency." So that's when we went down there, and all the doctors in the ambulance were at Triplet Hospital. So they were bringing bodies from King Street, where they they dropped bombs there. They were bringing these bodies in trucks, and their arms would be hanging out there. So we knew they were dead bodies. So like 2 or 3 trucks there with these bodies, and she and I were sitting on the curb. "Hey, look at that! That man has a ring on his finger," stuff like that. funny. I mean, we didn't think about how horrible all of this was. But that was our introduction to December 7th. It was horrible. No training, no nothing.
The real McCoy.
And,